Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Milo, and you're listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. At Physician Empowerment, we're focused on transforming the lives of Canadian physicians through education and finance, practice transformation, wellness, and leadership. After you've listened to today's episode, I encourage you to visit us at phys-empowerment.ca, that's PHYS, empowerment.ca, to learn more about the many resources we have to help you make that change in your own life, practice, and personal finances. Now on to today's episode. Hello. This is Kevin Milo with the Physician Empowerment Podcast, and it is a January recording, which means we are in, as Dr. Michelle Jackman has said it, the season of motivation. When we're entering the new year and we've got plans and dreams and resolutions. So I am joined here by Dr. Michelle Jackman, who is a part of our masterclass, but a real contributor. And you wear a lot of hats, and I hope I'm going to get these right, but you are a Calgary-based pediatric obesity specialist. And in addition to that, you're a busy, active mom, and you are a world-class gravel cyclist, which means you've competed at an international level and done very, very well. And in our conversations about your cycling career, it is a lot about that key motivation. How do you find it? How do you keep it, especially when it's hard? So with that being said, Michelle, maybe I'll just get you to say hi in a few words.
Wow, Kevin, thanks so much. You're making me sound so good.
You are.
I love that, world class. I'm going to make sure my 12-year-old daughter knows that I was introduced as world class. So if I can be a world class mom, or hopefully if I can be a world class cyclist, I can be a world class mom. But
No, it's wonderful. Actually, our daughters go to the same school.
Yeah, I know, that is pretty
in
neat.
Calgary.
That's really neat.
Yeah, very small world. Very small world.
Great.
Yeah, so there are so many facets to motivation, right? And it's easy enough to catch that fire, but how do we keep it alive, right? And the parallels here are not just in athletics. It is in our medical career, it's in our personal lives, it's in our side projects or gigs or our dreams even. And we talk about internal motivation and external motivation, right? And really being able to differentiate the two. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But just to get us started, do you want to talk to us, discuss, Michelle, the difference between inspiration and motivation?
Yeah, that's great. Because when you first told me that your idea about this podcast, my brain just started going towards when I asked myself, what motivates me? Like, what motivates me? And then I just kept thinking of things that inspire me. And so got curious about that and thought, well, really, how does that show up for people? And I guess for me, motivation often is connected to inspiration because I think about why, and I guess in the coaching world, we always want to help our clients connect their purpose to their goals and where they want to go in their direction. So for me, my purpose is really, really much, it's really rooted, I think, in wanting to be a good role model for my daughter. I think that's really fueled my motivation in sport and trying to achieve what I can to show her that really there's no limits and to be a good role model. So that's kind of what keeps me going now
in this
terms of my
space.
big goal. So it's my big purpose or my big inspirations is her. But then there's a lot of other people that inspire me, and like my husband, my other people in my life that support other aspects and community, the cycling community, our coach. It's just it's very important for me to connect those relationships to my sense of purpose and motivation. So
I love that. When I think about it, inspiration, I think it operates on a very emotional level. There's that excitement or, that anticipation and sort of those, lofty visions of what it could be that we're striving for. But I think for most of us, inspiration can fade and it can fade quickly. And then there has to be something beyond that sustaining us. And we talk about motivation and we talk about grit. And you sort of alluded to some of this, Michelle, in discussing like what knowing your whys.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that on this show before.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think a key part of when that initial excitement is gone is sticking to your whys.
Yeah. And that I'm wondering, I'm really curious about, did you want to, kind of talk about anything that you've noticed, like what has happened, or when do you know when that inspiration or that initial spark is starting to fade? Like what's been can you think of a moment
I think
where
that's actually
you were
a really good one to dig down on. And I think for a lot of us, we start to feel that inertia, that slowing when reality hits, when we're there taking concrete actions and not always seeing the rewards that come out of it. Imagine in your cycling career, it's those long training days
yeah
where you just feel tired and you feel like, is this ever going to make a difference?
yeah
And nobody notices, right? It's the struggle alone, I think, as well, right? Because, maybe people in our lives are there watching us or cheering us on initially, but that can fade as well. And I think for myself, in reflecting on the pursuit of my own goals or aspirations, was one key thing was learning to differentiate what is truly mine or an internal why, an internal motivation, and then what is something on the outside, right? Like, are we seeking validation? Are we seeking recognition, awards, money, status, whatever it is?
yeah
And those aren't necessarily bad things, but I don't think that's the core of long-term motivation. And when you look at the people that are truly successful, they have their ups and downs, right? Whether it's a highly successful musician that releases a terrible album, but it was like coming from the heart.
That's right.
Or, an elite athlete who just had a terrible season.
Right. Yeah.
But they were playing the sport they loved. And so I think that's really important, is to have that constant internal dialogue of what is mine and why am I here?
Yeah. What you're talking about is, basically getting clear on who you're doing your goal for and what your realm of your sphere of control is, right? What is within your control? What is really what is yours in terms of passion? Is that what you were referring to Kevin? Or are you doing this out of obligation? Are you doing this for someone else? Are you doing this for fear of financial insecurity? Many, many times I think in medicine, we're motivated by fear.
Exactly.
And, we graduate and we want to be the best physician we want to be safe physician. We want to be providing great care. So we are often fueled by our own insecurities to overdo things in a way. So there is a point where motivation can serve you, and then there's a point where motivation tips off over to the other side, I think, where it no longer serves you, but it's not, you've lost track of really the goal. So to make the sport analogy to it. I've had the privilege of working with some elite cyclists that are, young adults, and they talk about how when they lose the fun, they lose track of the joy of cycling.
Oh, yeah.
When we lose track of that, and it's time to remind ourselves why we're doing it. And a lot of times that comes in at a place where they feel like there's external pressures on them, expectations from parents, sponsors, to perform. And then it actually works in contradiction because it inhibits performance. So, I think we can make a lot of parallels with the physician world in that when we're fueled by fear, or where we're fueled by that external pressure, others to meet expectations of others, that or we might be putting very perfectionistic expectations on ourselves. When we lose track of that, that joy of practicing medicine, that joy of seeing a well-functioning team in the emergency department running a code. And I kind of interviewed my husband too, to ask him, what motivates him, on those evening shifts, because as you know, he's an emerge physician too, Kevin. And like, how do you get yourself motivated to go in for those 11 p.m. shifts? And he's like, it's hard. Probably rather, some days you'd rather be doing something else, like skiing or biking, or staying with your family and enjoying that. But he said, I think now also about who my purpose is for. And it's that team, it's those nurses, those colleagues in the emerge that are counting on you to show up and to be a part of that highly functioning team. So I think as we go on in our careers too, our motivation shifts, and we find out kind of what is serving us. So, like in bike racing, we find out what mindset is making you go faster, and what mindset is actually making you stagnate, making you freeze in fear, making you get too stressed, tense, so that you can't be in that relaxed flow state. So, there's a lot of great comparisons we can make to it.
Well, I like this way of looking at our careers through the lens of, elite performance.
Right.
Because it's not just about maintaining a certain consistency. It's not just about safety. It's about really hitting those heights in our career, in our personal lives. Right. And that's, I think, what differentiates an elite athlete from an average one is a willingness to pull in all tools. And we talked about this offline, Michelle, is like engaging outside support, and then that constant self-conversation is a key part of the training and development. It's not peripheral.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we often think that, I think as physicians, a lot of us are very independent and autonomous, and we find it hard to ask for help. So, I guess the first step is recognizing that you're hitting a plateau, right? So if you striving for the Olympics, would you just quit? Would you just stay, okay, well, I'm doing good. My patients seem happy, but I'm not happy. But it seems this must be it, right? Do you settle for that? Well, if you were going for the Olympics, you'd be like, your coach would be like, well, no, it's time for us to change things up a bit. Let's hire a coach, or let's go get you to see the sports psychologist, or let's get you assessed by the family physician and make sure there's no other reasons why you're fatigued. So let's bring in let's gather a team for you. and see what we can do, so
And
yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's the value of coaching, because it's a partnering with someone who can allow you that space to reflect and determine, well, are you really, is this really what you want? And sometimes, I mean, many of my clients come to me and they, at the outcome, they decide that, yeah, this is this is the career that they're in, that they want to be in. However, it just needs to look a little differently, right? Or they just need to think, like in my case, when I started with a coach, I just needed to think about some different creative possibilities that my job could look like in a different role. So, but yeah, it's about, I guess, identifying when you hit those plateaus and identifying what are the hurdles or what are the challenges that are getting in the way of you getting to the next level. So,
and I think one thing that will really take the wind out of our sails, and we do this all the time as physicians, is being overly self-critical. We are our own worst critics. And as you alluded to earlier, that can be paralyzing.
mm-hmm.
It dampens creativity, and if we're, in a field outside of our job as physicians, it can dampen our willingness to try new things, to be vulnerable with ourselves and with other people. So how do you change that internal conversation from self-criticism? And it comes up when you hit a roadblock.
Right.
And you start saying things to yourself like, oh, I bit off more than I could chew. Or why did I think that I could be excellent in this?
Yeah.
Or this just isn't going to happen, right? It happens when we hit those roadblocks. The inspiration's died out and we're starting to, have those hard days
Right.
as we pursue our goal. So talk about, or share, Michelle, for us, how we gently nudge ourselves to a better place with less self-criticism and more constructive,
Yeah. And
encouragement.
exactly. That's great. And that speaks to a lot of the tools that are, proving out in psychology, literature and research to be really effective, and neuroscience, like rewiring that brain from a self-critical state to a much more growth mindset state. So that's really some exciting research showing that that's really a thing. So what I do is a couple of different exercises to get people to move to a place of self-compassion. I know some people don't like that word, self-compassion, because it's a catch-all, but there's one thing that I like to do is that you lean into those emotions. So start to unpack those and, start to ask yourself, where is this, this feeling of criticism? Maybe it's anger, maybe it's, maybe it's lack of interest, lack of like apathy, boredom, that can be a telling sign too. And then just getting curious about that and saying, hey, I'm feeling kind of bored, like what's that all about, right? And just having that conversation with yourself like you would with a friend, so you can do some, with a coach we would do. Okay, imagine if you're talking to one of your best buddies in your department and they're having a rough day and you're just like, tell me what's going on. Like, what's going on with these cases? How come you're just feeling bored? You're not stimulated. Like, how's that? Why is that not doing anything for you? So seems like learning and being challenged is really important to you. And then you go deeper and you say, well, why is learning important to me? Well, that's one of my core values. Like, as a physician, I'm going to be a lifelong learner. Like, I'm going to embrace this as a challenge to keep learning, to keep teaching others, to keep learning from others. So then you're like, well, why is that important? How are you getting enough of that? Where's that showing up in your week?
So just really digging down on the roots of a lot of those thoughts and emotions.
Yeah, and getting curious about those, like when those criticisms come in. I mean, sometimes that can be, there's a number of different things we can call them. The internal critic, the inner critic, the gremlins. Yeah. There's been quite a bit written on this, and saboteurs. And you can really, I think by naming your saboteurs or your inner critic, you can really take away their power and get your power back,
and you can create a separation that's not
exactly. That's just a part
that's just the thought that came into your head, and sometimes it comes from the outside world. Somebody will make a passing comment, or you'll see something in the media, and so just separating that from you,
exactly,
I think is important. And now this is another one we're always guilty about, is a lack of rest, right? Because the things you're talking about, Michelle, imply a certain degree of quiet in our lives. Right. And I started driving without music or any kind of like audio on, because I can do some thinking, in my commute or wherever I'm headed. But recognizing, and again, I'm a work in progress in this, but space of rest. Good. But that's something we're guilty of. But athletes are constantly resting.
Well, they're supposed to rest. They're
supposed to rest, kind of right? Like whether it happens challenge, or not, there's a time to push hard, but then there is a time to rest and reflect.
Absolutely.
So what practical tips do you have for creating small rests in our day, or in our month, or in our year?
Yeah, and I mean that's going to look different for everybody. But I mean, I think it's really important to be intentional about it, no matter what works for you. Be intentional about it. So be it meditation, like even just, 5-minute, I actually was told by a coach, just start with one of those apps, like Waking Up or Calm app, and just play a 5-minute meditation, because I do well with prompts, right? Some people like journaling, and you can do like a prompt. So today I'm going to be intentional about X, or I'm going to try my best to be happy by X, right? I'm going to challenge myself to do this new thing. So, there's a lot of good feedback on those practices, and just being intentional, be it with your morning coffee or while you're driving, and reflecting. That's a great time to be present. And I've come a long way. Like 5 years ago, I could not sit still for maybe a minute, but I've improved.
Yeah, you strike me as like a high energy person.
That's right. I have to keep moving. But the other thing with tools to just rest is physical things. Like a lot of people really respond well to yoga. Really. Other breath work, like my physiotherapist does breath work now, which is amazing. If you're curious about it, I highly recommend it. And she runs breath work classes. I've learned so much. Who knew? Like I was breathing wrong all these years. And then, and feeling like body work, like somatic work, like where do you feel your stress? Where do you
carry your attention? I thought that was very powerful.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And I think a lot of us don't utilize those practices and those therapists enough, especially in medicine. The other thing would be trauma work. I mean, we've all seen witnessed so many traumatic events, and we dissociate it from it, right? We cope with it by dissociating, but if you've read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, it truly does keep the score. So we can't outrun our trauma. We can't outbike our trauma. We have to at one point encounter it. So the sooner I wish I had known this. I'm speaking with some residents tomorrow. So tomorrow night I'm having them all over for the evening to the
Oh, that's
house, and we're
wonderful.
going to just talk about coaching and how it helped me and how maybe it can help them. So I think we're lucky the younger generation seems to be a lot more in tune with their
I think so.
self-awareness piece.
Yeah.
So it's good. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk about too is how do you deal with setbacks?
Setbacks, yeah.
Right? Because that's, I think, those speed bumps that we hit in the road.
Yeah.
And like sometimes they're just minor, but when there's lots of them, they add up, or something major. And what mindset should we have to overcome obstacles, to stay motivated, but also, a willingness to change direction, to take it as a cue that like, maybe I need to slow down or try something new without abandoning the higher goal. So
yeah, I love
tell me
this
your thoughts
question.
around that, like dealing with those obstacles. Like, I don't know. I think I had this quote, which is, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, or some variant of that.
Yeah, that's great.
But when you take it, right? Like when it just, goodness, it just hits you and you're reeling and you're just wondering how you're going to keep going, how you're going to stand on your feet. So yeah, take us through that, because I'm sure you've had setbacks in your career, or setbacks in your cycling career. How do you overcome those and stay motivated?
Yeah, I love this question because it comes up a lot. It comes up a lot in medicine. It comes up a lot in sport and bike racing. Cycling, you have crashes. The one form of bike racing we do is cyclocross, where you're navigating like muddy sections, and you've got this bike. It's like a drop bar bike, and you've got essentially like a mountain bike type course, but you do as many laps as you can. And there could be mud, sand, there could be barriers that you've got to haul your bike over. So it's a good metaphor for life, for what you're talking about, Kevin, with obstacles in your way, literally obstacles. So when you crash, there is sort of that human, protective instinct, like, okay, this is over. I'm safety is it, I'm not going for the win anymore. But the most inspiring races probably that I've ever seen, and probably if you watch Catherine Penderell, our Canadian Olympic medalist in mountain biking, I actually had the pleasure of interviewing her a few weeks ago. Now she's retired from professional cycling, but she's head of Cycling Canada's program development. And so she was talking about how, after that, she fell at the Olympics, and she had not only a plan A for how she was going to execute her start if her start went well. She also had in the back of her mind, which she had rehearsed with her coach and psychologist, what was going to happen if the start didn't go well, which she got boxed in. She ended up crashing. She ended up getting back on and reeling in the bronze medal, which was like our best, Canadian finish in years. So in mountain biking. So it's really neat to think about that, elite mindset, that she was proactive. She had thought through that. And I guess we don't necessarily do that. We kind of go in like medicine's going to be my life. I'm going to
be happy. I'm not going to have bad days.
That's right. I'm going to practice till I'm, 65 or 70. I'm going to be inspired and until I'm retired. Right.
Yeah.
And
I think what that is it's the power of negative visualization, right? Saying, okay, how am I going to work through this when the worst case scenario happens?
Right.
And I'm going to, and the decision to say, I'm going to be okay.
Right.
I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. And so, definitely visualization, contingency plans. So, when I'm an emerge doctor, what in 20 years, am I really going to want to do night shifts, or what's that going to look like? How am I going to look at myself if I can't operate? I'm a surgeon and I can't operate because of a health concern.
Yeah.
How does that change my identity? How does that change my purpose? Or can I live my purpose? So, maybe my purpose will look differently. So like maybe I didn't have the career I had originally envisioned, but could there be another
path, but could there be something even better?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and that's the power of like combining that negative visualization with a positive mindset overall. To say, okay, well, that old expression of a door closes, a window opens. The other very powerful thing I found in this space is that radical acceptance of saying, who am I to expect no bumps in the road, no struggles, no setbacks? Having a realistic mindset. Like we tend to, in our society, idealize, elite performers, whether they're business and science or technology or athleticism or the performing arts, whatever field. We look at the winners and we think they must never have had bad days, but they'll tell you they've had countless bad days, countless failures, countless setbacks, but they are successful ultimately because they keep going.
Well,
and so just
I would even
telling
go
yourself,
so far to say those setbacks are where the magic happens.
Exactly. And it's where you find what you're made of. It's where you learn practical lessons about, your approach. So again, that positivity, embracing the struggle, I think is so important. And not being overly hard on ourselves, overly self-critical, but saying, no, like setbacks happen. I mean, to go back to your example of a surgeon, like surgeons have surgical complications. It's unrealistic to say, well, I'm going to go through my surgical career and never have a major complication.
Right.
We know it happens, right? And so that level, I think, of maturity really helps us to take the long view.
Yeah.
And you talked about this earlier, and they talked about people who are in time or through time, which I thought was kind of very interesting concept. It's do you want to just kind of expand that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. So I'm an example of an in-time person. I tend to, I guess I feel deeply. I am passionate in the moment. I may say yes to doing something fun because procrastination pays off now, whereas dedication pays off a long time from now. So I'm the type of person that needs to remind myself, no, we're going for the long game here. I've got to focus. An example of a long-term person would be someone like my husband who's in research, and he knows he's got to do the work now in order to get that grant or complete that research project 6 months from now, or even get the research project started 6 months from now. So he's very good at looking at the long game, right? Whereas I'm more of a sprinter. I'm like there for the yeah, hey, I want to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a long sort of a in time versus a through time person in psychology speak. But yeah.
And it's not to say that one is good
Yeah.
or the other is
And
bad or anything like that. It's just knowing what type of person you
yes.
are, I think is very useful.
Yes, because it means that I just have to work a little harder at connecting my long-term purpose and my overall big purpose to my day to day. So I have to, remind myself what I'm doing today is going to pay off in a couple of weeks. And this is really important to me because this is I want my daughter to see me at Worlds in the Canadian jersey. So I have to do the
Yeah.
work. So yeah. And
Yeah.
it's,
But I think that alone, I mean, we're going to just pause there too and say, having a very clear visualization of what does success look like
yes.
for
Yeah.
you, not the outside world, but like I get the impression you have this vision of your daughter who's, growing up watching her mom, and your daughter gets to see her mom wearing that jersey and placing, and then connecting that with all the work you did in your training.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And it's also, you picked up on, I'm a very visual person. So not everyone, has their, experiences their vision of or their picture of what success is to them. Maybe it's more of a feeling, maybe it's more of and maybe they like to write things down and have a journal kind of what their version of
Yeah.
success is. So
And I
it's
think
good.
there also has to be a willingness to subtly change it, or even occasionally dramatically change it, right? Like,
Right.
you might be walking down a road and then you see something better or something that's a better fit for you, and a willingness to go
Mm-hmm.
down that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think carrying a certain flexibility in our mindset is also key to stay motivated, right? Like, there's going to be times when the road just is not opening up and you're going to have to find something
Absolutely.
else,
Yeah. Yeah. And another
and you have to find a
useful
workaround. So
that's a useful mindset to think that to remember too that nothing is static, especially us as humans. We are going to change physiologically each year, and we are going to be capable of doing some things better, but some things less, like night shifts, for example. So thinking of ourselves as the same version of ourselves as we were 20 years ago is not, it's not realistic and it's not helpful. So
it's not helpful. I think that's key. So avoiding
yeah,
over identification,
yeah,
avoiding over
yeah.
attachment to a certain vision of ourselves or what the process should look like is also key. I think a certain
Yes, yeah,
looseness or flexibility along the way to say, how can I get there?
absolutely. Yeah. I love that poem by it's not T.S. Eliot, but it's on my website. It's I took the path least followed, and that made all the difference. So
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of speaks to your, you think you're on one path, and then you might need to change direction. But knowing that is really where the magic happens.
And being open to the possibility that it might be wonderful. We just don't know. And that's probably one of the big ones I've learned going through some decades of my life now is things that I thought were going to be great were not. Things that I thought were going to be difficult turned out to be wonderful gifts. So we just, it's that humbleness to say, okay, what's life's journey going to hold for me? And where can I find beauty as I go down that journey? I
Humbleness.
think is so powerful. Because again,
Yeah,
to go back
that's
to your point,
good.
the journey should be joyful. The journey should be meaningful. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy or without struggle, but by
Mm-hmm.
and large, it shouldn't just be the focus on the goal, because the goal is probably going to be
Yeah,
it's a few minutes, right? It's a few minutes, right? That
right.
you're up on that podium. But
Yeah.
then you want to be able to look back on what took you there and say, oh, I had a lot of great experiences with my, fellow competitors or my teammates, with my family. I went to great places. I reached personal goals that I set out for myself, whatever it was. So being able to really embrace the journey, I think, is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I just thought of the author of that poem. It's Robert
Go for
Frost
it.
pretty well.
Oh, beautiful.
Came to me.
Beautiful. No, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So again, I think we could just keep going and going and going, but talk to us, Michelle, about what you think the vision of Find Whole looks like for us. Like, what facets are there? What should we be trying to assemble in our own life's toolkit for thriving as we strive for a career goal, a personal goal, business goal, whatever it is? Kind of put it together for us, because you've achieved so much.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I think that it really comes down to self-assessment, self-awareness. It kind of struck me like you and I have perspective now, right? And we're able to see the world differently than our kids do. And we're able to realize that, those struggles were worth it, and where maybe those struggles have taught us some of our greatest lessons. And like you said, been our gifts. At first, a gift disguised as a curse, but ended up being a great gift. So, and just kind of like learning what's going to be your, I would maybe make the metaphor to what is going to be your bike, like, or what is going to be your choice of vehicle to navigate the storms of life, right? And the storms of your career, the storms of your personal life, or unexpected family events, expected family events. And, riding those waves up and down. Or I like to talk about a lot of times in coaching, like our goals are like going on a big mountain hike. And you know how if you're going to be going over a pass, you're going to be going up and you're going to be going down. And then you're going in the Rockies, you're going to be doing a lot of this. And before you actually reach that final climb to the summit. And sometimes you just got to zoom out and say, look, I know it feels like I am going down right now. Like it feels like I'm in a bit of a rut here in life. But look at how high I've gone. Like I've already gone
Yeah.
up like 300 meters. And, I know that once I get through this little dip, it's going to go up again. So I guess there's a little bit of faith there and belief and hope that, this is going to suck for a bit, but then it's going to pick up. So that I like to use that metaphor.
So a constant conversation with self and a willingness to take the long view.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's so powerful.
It's true. And and knowing yourself and what motivates you, and reminding yourself and being gentle to yourself, and assembling your team, like treat yourself like an elite athlete going to the Olympics, and think of, which is very timely because the Olympics are coming up, and think about who you want on your team, who you have on your team. And one of the quotes or one of the jokes that I like to tell is the three hardest things to say in life are, I need help, I was wrong, and Worcestershire sauce. If that's how you say it.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And just I think probably we should wrap it up, but one of the big final messages is you are worth it. As a physician, as a person, you're worth personal investment. And, we've all only got one life to live, and it should be lived fully and meaningfully.
Yeah.
And authentically for ourselves, I think is so key, because it's a gift. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here today, Michelle. It's always wonderful talking to you. And like you've got this great energy of like looking at the world with fresh eyes, and this perspective of like, what next?
Oh, thanks, Kevin. I think that's really like one of the best compliments I've ever had.
But it's true, right? Like I always talk to you, and you always have this great mindset and a smile. So it's to be celebrated.
Wow, thanks.
And this is why you're outstanding in the coaching space, and I think why you inspire so many people in your cycling career as well.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Yeah. And I think a lot about how this aligns really well with your message of have your dream, like, and always remember your dream. And it's hard some days, but it's important, to remember that. So thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, and thanks for all you do with through physician empowerment and in reminding us all like to keep those dreams alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. If you're ready to take those next steps in transforming your practice, finances, or personal well-being, then come and join us at phys-empowerment.ca, PHYS empowerment.ca, to learn more about how we can help. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would share our podcast with a colleague or friend, and head over to Apple Podcasts to give us a 5-star rating and review. If you've got feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episode topics, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to join us and be interviewed and share some of your story, we'd absolutely love that as well. Please send me an email at kmilo@phys-empowerment.ca. Thank you again for listening.